The first time I ever flew an aeroplane, that was before the war, was in a Bücker Jungmann, which was the German version of a Tiger Moth. And the Dutch government had a sort of students' voluntary flying corps, and 18-year-old boys could go and learn to fly because they knew they needed pilots because there was a possibility of a threat to Japan, which came quite unexpected, faster than they expected it. The Dutch Navy taught people to fly in Ryans, which were a pretty terrible, difficult aircraft to fly because the wheels were very tight, and they used to start them on the land, and then once they could handle that, they put floats under it, and that made it even harder. It was a high performance. It was the most advanced plane in the world at that particular time, with all metal, and we were used to all this canvas. If you pushed your finger in it, you damage the aircraft, and this was practically all metal, except some of it was still fabric. But anyway, I never got into them because our training hadn't sufficiently started to begin flying. We had only theory on the ground. Then when Java fell, the Navy decided to send us to Australia to continue our training there. But 2 days from Freemantle, our ship was taken by the Japs, and I finished up in Nagasaki, where I survived the atom bomb as a prisoner of war. So I really appreciate all the good things in life. After the war, then I still was with the Navy, and we then were sent from Manila. After that, fattened us up. We went in the December 45. I arrived in Australia with the Navy. We had a base at Rose Bay, flying boats. We also had 15 Dakotas, which are all used to fly women and children and sick POWs out of the former Dutch East Indies who had been in Japanese hands. And that's how I came to Australia. Of course, I still wanted to learn to fly. So after my discharge, I got my first job as a school teacher in Cowra Migrant Centre. And that was in '49. And there were a few, actually Cowra was a town where there were a lot of people who had been in the Air Force. The Australian government was promoting the idea of keeping pilots flying because of the Cold War. And so we started a flying club in '49. We just had the 60th anniversary of the Cowra Aero Club, and I was the only one still alive of the original committee. But that's where I learned to fly with a man very well known in aviation, George Campbell. He taught me to fly, and so we started up in these very old aeroplanes, which we saw here, the good old Tiger Moth. I got 200 hours in Tigers, and there was also the Avro. I've flown that too. I got a few hours on the Avro. And of course then we had the Chipmunks, and then later on we started on Pipers and Cessnas. So I've had a fair bit of flying in light aircraft, and my dream of learning to fly was really became to fruition. So I've had my license for 35 years, and I let it go when I was 63.